Perfect. So let's go back to the tweet. I was searching for it. It's back at the beginning of the month, but basically the tweet was just Jess saying that you hated selling. Without too much detail, what was the event? What was the occurrence that made you feel that way to tweet that as kind of the start of this conversation?
So I recently
welcome to a special episode of Advisor of Tomorrow. I have a few of my friends that there was a tweet that united us, and we'll get to that tweet here in a moment. But real quick before we do that, I've got Jess Boast, or is it Bost?
It's Bost.
Okay, sorry, Jess Bost. I should have got that before, but you know what? That's all right.
Roll with it.
Joy Lear and Jude Bedreau here with me to talk about selling as an advisor and that level of discomfort that some of us have with that reputation or that word that makes some of us feel uneasy. So what united us, and then we'll get to quick intros, was Jess, you tweeted out that you hated selling. So I chimed in real quick with, hey, do you want to have a chat? And I think Jude was next and said, hey, patch me in as well. And then Joy came in to bring in the mental side of this whole game. And I thought this is a great conversation for other advisors to hear as well, because surely the four of us aren't the only ones that have opinions and feelings on this. Real quick, let's get background on each of you just in case people listening or watching don't know you. And we'll start with Jess, since you are the one who united us all today.
So I still feel pretty new to the industry. I've been around for a few years. I came over from personal training. So the one thing that I do know, and I still know, and I will always love is people and working with people. So that's part of what drew me here. I was looking for something that balanced family life a little better. And, as it always happens, somebody says, hey, I think you'd be good at this. I think you'd like this. And here we are. So I love it. Wouldn't trade it. Wouldn't go back. Wouldn't do anything else. I'm glad to be here. I'm from Georgia. Always have been. And
Who is, so you just made a change, kind of gone out on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the clients that you work with? And before you say that, I've seen the Olympic lifting videos. So I CrossFit, so I do a little bit of lifting as well. So whenever I see that, I naturally drawn to it. So kudos to you for putting those videos out there.
Thanks. Yeah, that's my passion. It'll always be with me. I really enjoy that aspect of just feeling strong within yourself. And on that note, so women is really my passion and my focus. And it's because I did find a lot of times that women struggle with believing in themselves, with trusting themselves, with making that transition to I am strong, I am capable, not I know people who are, and I can depend on people who are, but instead I have that in myself. And the illustration that I use most often with that is when you walk into a gym, you see somebody jumping on top of a box, regardless of how high it is, you think to yourself, I can't do that. I'll never be able to do that. And through time and consistency and practice, you eventually, a lot of people are able to jump on some form of a height, whether it be a box. They do it. But there's this moment, the first time they ever land on top of the box, that when their feet touch the top of the box and they look at you and they think, I did that. I did that. You didn't do that for me. You might have coached me, you might have helped me, you might have inspired me, you might have encouraged me, but I'm the one that lifted myself to this point. That's what I'm looking for with women in this industry, and that's what I want to help with.
And if I can jump in here, Jess, I'm going to share our exchange yesterday, because and knowing you and caring so much about you, that's what I see where you are in your process right now. So I have to share. So yesterday I sent Jess a picture. I'm a big believer in girls who lift. So I sent Jess a picture of deadlifting a weight I hadn't deadlifted before. And I told her, okay, if I can be lifting this, you can be lifting all the heavy things you are doing in your life, in your business right now. And there are so many parallels, I think, between the mindset of physical conditioning and fitness and what we do in business as well that can really be applied.
In life and parenting and all of it.
All of the things.
Yeah.
And Joy, since you hopped in, let everybody know who you are.
So I'm Joy Leary. I am a licensed clinical psychologist and consultant, and I describe for people that I work where Freud meets finance. So I'm a lover of all things behavioral finance and have a specialty in therapy consulting and coaching for industry professionals and advisors in this space.
And finally, rounding out this group, Jude, give us your intro real quick.
Hey, y'all. I'm Jude Boudreau from New Orleans, and I'm a partner and senior planner with the Planning Center. But I've been around the industry now for 20 years and started on the very heavy sales side in an insurance agency, like I think many of us had some of our first tastes with the business, and hated everything about that process and needed to find a way that worked for who I was. And so that was kind of what I wanted to, when I saw Jess's tweet, I was like, look, doesn't have to be that way. There's other ways to go about this. So glad to have a chat and catch up with y'all and share some things we've picked up along the way.
Perfect. So let's go back to the tweet. I was searching for it. It's back at the beginning of the month, but basically the tweet was just Jess saying that you hated selling. Without too much detail, what was the event? What was the occurrence that made you feel that way to tweet that as kind of the start of this conversation?
So I recently went out more independently and on my own. And by doing that, the firm that I joined with, their onboarding process for a new advisor includes a daily structure of how to launch a business. And so me being the Girl Scout that I am, I have this challenge inside of me of they're saying I should do this. So I need to do this. And I wrestled with that for several days. And I finally, picked up the phone because I know this is a people business. I just didn't want to call people. I don't know what the problem is. But so I picked up the phone, I called a couple people, talked to a few folks, and, over the course of maybe 5, 6, 7 conversations, everybody was excited to talk with me. And it was a validating and surprising moment, but also encouraging to get outside my comfort zone. And there was one woman in particular who said, I have actually been looking for someone like you. I've been wondering to myself who it is that I could trust that, is in the financial space that could help me with this. And then she named off, side businesses and other people, other women, that she really wants to be able to refer to someone that she can trust. And I thought to myself, how terrible is it that I'm allowing my perception of sales to keep me from connecting with people like this?
Jess.
But I still hate sales. So that's where it came from. Yeah. And that's where it came from. It's like, I really hate this, but help me what I want. I think Joy is definitely I hope you're going to have some words of wisdom for me. How to reframe that in my head so that I can get to the same place, but without the disgust for what I'm doing in the process, because it doesn't seem to match up with my intentions.
I have so many thoughts. I want to start with a question. Mm-hmm. Why do you think you were so surprised that you got the response you did?
Most of the responses that I got on that Twitter feed, that Twitter comment, matched with the thoughts in my head, which is I don't like to be sold to. I don't like for someone to presume that I need what they have to offer.
Yeah.
And tell me by virtue of saying I can help you with your finances that you must need help with your finances. And so that was the surprising part, was that people were not offended by my ask, that they didn't assume that I was asking because I wanted something out of it. They didn't assume I was asking because I perceived them a certain way. Those are two big.
You were coming to the table with a value proposition for them. Mm-hmm. And I think something I encourage people to, because I think the reason that tweet really resonated is this is something so many people struggle with. They don't just struggle with this in this industry, across the board. It's kind of this, people equate sales with slimy, and they're like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to, quote, like guilt people or pressure them, because that doesn't feel good for any of us. But I would encourage you to think about, so we really focus on then those experiences that match that narrative and that belief, sales are slimy. And then we have all of this evidence that this is what sales is. But you are a consumer yourself. There are brands, there are people, there are services you love. You're like, I don't care what you are selling. I trust you. I believe in you. I've had a positive experience. What you have is what I need, and I'm happy to pay you for more of it. But all of that kind of gets filtered out, I think, when people dial into this, sales is bad. So I encourage you to kind of reflect on your own experiences as a consumer. What things do you really appreciate? What are the brands and businesses that do it well? And why do they resonate and connect with you and create a different sales experience? And think about, okay, how can I do that?
I wish we could have a video of you having these conversations with these women about what it is that you do and how you can help them, because you were selling in the moment. You just didn't know it. And the way that you were selling it was expressing your passion for what it is that you do and that you're able to help. So by telling your story, this is why I love content, by telling your story of what it is that you do, why that you do it, and then the emotions and the excitement that you have, like, people are attracted to that and they're wanting to work with you because they see that passion. They see that you're really there to help them. It's not about anything other than that. And I think that when I think of sales, it's a straight business transaction. You have something that needs to be bought or sold. I'm a consumer. There's no passion behind what it is that salesperson's selling. They're just selling to make another paycheck. And that's where my mind goes. Like, I hate buying cars. Like the last car, my most recent car I'm just buying now, there's no salespeople in it. You order it and you pay for it, and that's it. So I don't have to worry about being sold. I don't like negotiating. I hate all of that. So I'm in the camp of I don't like to be sold. But I think that maybe shifting in your mind what it is that you're selling. And then it's not so much you're selling a product, but you're selling yourself to be able to help people. And then now it's figuring out who are the right people for you to help. So you were selling the other day, you just didn't know it. And you were very, very good at it because it wasn't a technique. It wasn't something that your broker dealer or a company could train you on. It's not sales training 101. It's just what it is that excites you, the passion that you have. And people want that. People want people to work with people who are going to do well by them, and you can't fake passion. So I think the other thing is move away from thinking about that you have to sell, especially since you shared you don't have like quotas and things. Like, you don't have to worry about hitting a number. It's just go out and tell your story, and that is your selling. And then you bring them in and you do good work for them, and they're happy, and then they start referring you like crazy. So I would think it about, keep on finding who it is that you can help, why you want to help them, and just tell that story, and that will do all the selling that you need to do.
Yeah, I want to take one step back to tie on to something Justin said. If you think about your stereotypical car salesperson, and you might go and there's this perfect pitch and they know everything about the vehicle and they can walk you through all of the things, but you get the sense while you're going through that they're on their own agenda. They're not there to help you. They're here to help themselves by accomplishing something via you. And if you can imagine a different type of a sales interaction where somebody didn't really know it was a little clunky. Everything wasn't super polished with the way it went. But you had in your heart that that person was there to try to help you. And if you think about those two things and those two contrasts, I believe when we enter those conversations, the place from inside of ourselves where we enter them is far more important than anything you have to say or any polished presentation you've got. If you show up to people in the right way with what's authentically you, people will ask you to become customers. You don't have to try to convince them. You don't have to jump out of the bushes at people.
It's approaching it as, I have this, and then you can choose, is this something you want and desire? And Jess, I love how passionate you are, and knowing you and knowing more about you, the passion you have for really serving females. And that is such an important niche and need. And I really encourage you to think about, and as you move forward, approach this from a place of, you have something, you have a perspective that no one else in this world has, even someone with your demographics. So that in and of itself is very valuable and very special. And there are people out there who need exactly what you have. And if you can show up authentically as that person, there's something magnetic about that. I think sometimes with sales, if something is when we try to force it, that's when it starts to feel coercive and just doesn't sit well in people's gut. So that's something I would just encourage you to reflect on. And then and I think something I see within this industry, I think sometimes when people are thinking, well, I work with finance, I'm comfortable with money. Like, lots of people have their own stuff and their own baggage, their own blocks with money. So I would encourage you to, as you are working your way through this and developing more confidence in your voice, think about what are maybe some of the deeper core beliefs about money, about business, about what it means for you to experience your own success that maybe on some level are getting in the way and inhibiting you from allowing yourself to show up with the price points, with the confidence and ambition that you really can go out there tethered to create something beyond your wildest dreams.
I feel bad for car
Can I ask
salesmen.
a question real quick?
Oh yeah, go ahead. I feel bad for car salesmen. They always get the bad rap and all this. They're always the example we go to.
Well, my dad sold cars when I was a kid, and I remember very clearly this man that we all knew growing up, and he'd tell the story about how he sold this car to his mom for like $800 over invoice. And he was like, why'd you do that? And he's like, well, she's got the money, she can afford it. So it's just, you get so drilled into a mentality, I think it becomes that way. But yeah, it's a difficult place.
Would you, and this is for anybody, would you say that's where the law of numbers comes into play? And Joy, I'm kind of reflecting back on what you're saying and thinking to myself, one way to get past that hurdle is, and Justin and Jude, y'all can chime in to see if this matches with what you've experienced. Is it to go out and talk to as many people as I can with the willingness to tell them that they're not a good fit for me, with the willingness to look for that person that I want to work with? I mean, and I know that I've heard that so many times over again, but there's something different in the way that I think I'm hearing it right now from Joy, is the confidence in knowing who exactly it is that I work best with. The law of numbers and that, I guess, that selling piece, that putting myself out there piece. I'm not really selling. I'm not really doing anything. I'm just introducing myself to someone who could be a client of mine, to see if there's another conversation that should be had. And even when that conversation should be had, I'm still filtering whether or not this is going to be a good fit. I think that's the harder part, is not seeing everybody as a potential client.
Yeah.
Not seeing everybody as a potential client. That's probably where the difference maker would be, maybe with me.
You could oh, sorry, go Joy.
Okay. I think you are onto something so important. And I think it is difficult for people, particularly starting out, but I see this happening with professionals throughout their career. And I think it is particularly important in an industry like finance. So I will use an example from when I am doing clinical work. How I lead with a client is I understand and I truly believe that therapy is a transformative experience. In order for this to be the best experience for you, that means that it has to be the right fit. I may or may not be that for you. And I'm very comfortable if I'm not. So let's work out and discover and decide if I am or if I'm not. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And the more you can get comfortable with that, and that taps into, and maybe this is amplified for females, but I think on some level, everybody wants to be liked. And we think, well, I want to be liked by all people. No, if you are showing up really powerfully in the world, there are some people who are like, that person is not for me. If you can get okay with that, then you are providing more of yourself, more of an opportunity for that magnetic pull of the people who need and want you and what you have to offer. And then that match is made. And people aren't used to hearing that, because on some level they're thinking, there you are, you want them regardless if you can do the best work for them or not. And, before we started recording, talking about this area of specialization and knowing your zone of genius, and then saying, you know what, after hearing this, maybe I'm not the best person for you, but I know someone who is. And then within the industry, you develop a reputation and kind of cross-feeding relationships that ultimately help you. And then you are making sure you are providing the people you do serve with the best possible care and service. And then that's how you will then build your reputation, which will go on to have a ripple effect.
You could view everybody as a potential client. And then you're going to have a client base in the future filled with people that maybe you don't want to be around. But if it's not easy, it's easy to say, it's hard to do in practice, to stick to who that avatar is. And it's going to take you longer to build a business. It's going to take you longer to ramp it up. But once you build it and once it's bigger, you're going to have the ideal practice for you. You're going to be surrounded by people that you can help the best, that have similar interests that you want to be around. I think the viewing everybody as a prospect, as a potential client, that's a sales mentality. Like, okay, I just need to get the next client, I need to make the next sale. It doesn't matter. They have a heartbeat. Great. I can work with them. But if you view it as there is a right person, a right characteristic, a right type of person for me to help, and that's who I do my best work for, I need to find those people. And by talking to more people help me find that. But then that's why so much to me goes back to content. You can have these conversations, and you should. But while you're having these conversations, also find time to amplify your message through creating a blog or whatever it might be, videos like this, and put it out there so more people get to see what you're about. And maybe they aren't a good fit, but they know somebody who is, and this piece of content gets forwarded to that person, and now that connection is made. So there's some time that goes into it, but this stuff works in the background while you're out having conversations, trying to find those right people. But there's been plenty of great businesses that have been built, only to be torn back down once that advisor realizes these people aren't really who I'm supposed to be serving. Let me start all over from scratch, which maybe some people get excited about that, but that'd be very frustrating. And then you have to worry about how do I not unload, that's a negative way of saying it, but how do I move these clients who aren't right for me to another financial advisor? Because I probably like them a little bit. I don't want to do them wrong, but they're not who I want to be with from the future. And how do I handle that while I try to go build this business again 10 years in? So it's very easy to say, it's hard to do, but you'll be much better off if you find that avatar and you just stick to those people. And then, like Joy said, refer out, make connections to other advisors. I mean, let those advisors know who your person is, because that person's probably not right for them. And now they're going to refer back to you. And I kind of have this belief that whether it is the universe or karma, or whatever it might be, when you do good, when you do things for the right reasons and you do good, good ends up coming back to you, and you never know when it's going to be. So you're not referring with the intent on that advisor referring back to you, but you're just doing it because it's the right thing to do. And then magically a great referral comes to you out of nowhere. And I just view that's because you did the right thing earlier on.
Yeah, I agree with everything that y'all have said. I think the clearer you are about who you want to work with, the easier it is for you to spot them, and the easier it is for other people to know when it's the right time to introduce you to somebody. And the other thing I would just say is you're out meeting people. This is, a very much a numbers game, especially early on. It would take all the pressure off of yourself. You don't have to qualify every single person you're meeting. Your job is just to go help people. And helping people might be sending them to somebody else, because look, I'm not the right fit for you and I don't really know what you're dealing with, but I do think that Jane is an expert on that, and let me help get you connected with her. That's your role, and you'll feel good about that. You don't have to feel all the pressure that goes with everything else. Just go help people.
And Jess, I know you and your confidence and your heart to serve women and see, and really the ethos of what you are trying to build is helping women develop more financial confidence, a sense of agency. So I think I really want you to connect to that yourself, and then think about, as I am conducting myself as a professional, as a business person, how can I actually model and be an example of what I hope other people can experience? Because my understanding of part of your story is you want women to have something that maybe you didn't have or you found, and then you want to share. So I want you to think about that even as you have boundaries in your business, how you do your pricing, the big things, the little things. You have an opportunity to really be a very powerful, unique female role model within the industry and as a professional right now.
So when we think about this concept of selling and, advisors not really viewing themselves as salespeople, and again, we can make the argument that we're always selling, we're just selling ourselves as opposed to product or whatever it might be. One of the things that I couldn't help but think about when Jude was talking was that there's this continuation towards moving towards developing a niche or a niche, however you want to say it, that if you develop this niche that makes it easier not to have to sell either. For those out there watching and listening, I know that we're talking to Jess about her situation, but the point of recording this also is to help other advisors that are feeling the same way, having a clear identity of who it is that you want to work with, developing the niche. Like if you don't want to sell, that's a route that you can take to limit the amount of selling that you have to do. Because now it's just, here's who I help, here's how I help them. And you just put that out there and you let that be your marketing and go forward. You don't have to sell. And that way you don't have to worry about trying to fit somebody who doesn't match that niche in. Back to selling, I can try to make anything the right product for you by finding features and things that you might like, even though you may not. That's why people have buyer's remorse. They walk away buying something that they really didn't need, but the person talked them into it. We want to remove that from what it is. I have a recent experience. I've worked with this heating and cooling company for like 10 years now. And the reason I do is I trust them. I don't think that they're going to sell me anything. They're going to tell me what I need to get the furnace fixed. So we had to replace our furnace and air. And I just felt uncomfortable about the whole thing as it went on because I don't understand that stuff. So the technician came out for one problem, found another, new unit is needed. And the technician, who is really who I trust because it's the same guy that comes out every single time. It's pretty cool. I trust him. I was passed off to the sales team and they sent me a proposal with 4 different units. I have no idea what it is, like ranging from top of the line to still high end. And I'm trying to figure out, well, what do I need? What do I not need? I talked to the guy, finally decide on one. And there just was a breakdown in communication, little things like I was supposed to get a discount because I paid cash and that wasn't factored in. And so all these little things, at the end of the day, I left that feeling like I got sold a furnace and a heat pump and an air unit, that it wasn't that they gave me the best thing. I was sold that. And whether I was or I wasn't, that's the way I left feeling. And it made me sour on the company because I trusted them and I felt like they violated that trust and they sold me something rather than just being upfront and saying, here's everything. And part of that's on me. I bring that whole story up that we have the opportunity as advisors to potentially make our clients feel the same way. So that if we really don't want to be viewed as salespeople, we really don't want to sell, that as we go through with our relationships, we have to maintain that standard of care of where we're doing what's right, we're being transparent, we're helping them, our clients, understand. Because if they're used to that, the second we move away, we make an investment change. And even if we are fee only, it has nothing to do with our compensation. We make an investment change and we don't do a good job explaining it, or our clients then feel like we sold them on some new investment idea, and that can unravel the relationship. So this whole not selling is not just at the initial onset of the relationship, it continues throughout. And the less we sell them early on, the more careful we have to be of making them feel like at some point we sold them something.
Your integrity and your character are integral pieces of your brand, and you can't separate those things. Business is relationship, and particularly when you are dealing with something like finance that is more intimate. It's an intimate thing for people.
Yeah, the business people are buying the messenger, not the message here. With what we do.
Another place I see people really get stuck and discouraged is falling into this rabbit hole of, well, there are a lot of people doing this. The market is already saturated. There are people more experienced than me, especially when you're starting out. That's another one that comes up. There's someone that can do this better. Stay tethered to the fact that, Jess, there is no one else in the world who can show up like you can. So yes, someone can sell an identical product or service. Someone can share the content you are, or the plan, but no one else can do it with your voice, with your life context. So you have something that no one else can. So there is not a saturation for Jess in this world.
I like that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we hit a lot. Are there any closing thoughts on this conversation about selling as an advisor and not wanting to sell and not wanting to be sold to? I have some closing thoughts, but I'll let you guys go first and I'll tie it all together.
Yeah, I mean, Jess, has this been helpful? Do you have other things on your mind?
Yeah.
Yeah, very helpful. And the more I talk through it, the more I think, Joy, you hit on something. There is that kind of embedded thought of other people out there who are more experienced or who have these certain qualities or have this kind of lifestyle or grew up in this certain lifestyle, have their family has these types of connections. There's always that seed of that's probably why they're better at this, or they have an advantage over me and where I'm starting, and I'm still fairly new to this area, so people don't know my name, and there are those little seeds of doubt, and that's really where the sales tweak came from. Is I realize every bit of this is in my head. I realize it. I get it. It's all there. Figuring out exactly what that message is and pulling it out and staring it down and having something intentionally focused on countering it has always been really important for me. So I used to be really heavy growing up. Once I started working out and realizing just what it took to take care of my body and to fit in clothes the way that I wanted to, I still had a lot of mental work to do. I still have a lot of mental work to do every day. And so much of that was realizing that these messages that I carried inside of me for 26 years don't just go away. They don't just disappear. And I can change on the outside, but those messages are still inside me going, yep, if you eat that donut, you're going to be fat, and it just, it stays with you. So those insecurities those are what's new to me in this field. I'll say that. That's very new to me in this field. The insecurities that are inside of me that I didn't realize were there about money and about how to help people with money. Those are all brand new. So when I come up on something like, it's really hard to sell. I don't like selling. I hate selling. I know it's an insecurity in me. I know there's things inside of me, but relying on other people and their experiences to figure out what exactly it is, teasing those things out so that I can name them and then counter them and speak to them when they do show up has always been powerful to me in the past. And it's what I'm looking for now.
I think there's a real opportunity to reframe. So even when you were talking about those seeds and identifying that when you're getting stuck in the comparison trap, that those are some of the thoughts coming up. I think coming around the side of that and saying something like, okay, so they have something I don't have. So what is the flip side of that? You have things that they don't have. Your coming onto the scene right now means that you have a brand new perspective. You have a refreshed narrative. And when you can see things, I think, especially stepping into an industry with new eyes, that in and of itself can give you a competitive edge. So when you are finding yourself spinning on those thoughts that are keeping you stuck, I think it is really important to look at, okay, how do I step out of this so that I don't keep spinning and spiraling down?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I feel like an outsider a lot of times when I go to that spot too. My family's been from Louisiana for forever, but I'm not one of those like old New Orleans families. I grew up down the bayou, and my dad sold cars, my mom cleaned houses, and we got by, but it certainly wasn't some kind of affluent family like I see other, especially when I was starting the career, I'd see a lot of other young guys who were from those families. And all I could think of was, man, what could I could do so much more if I had their circumstance. Mm-hmm. But bottom line is I didn't. And it took me a long time to build my voice and just survive in the industry and create something that I'm super proud of. And I wouldn't switch spots with them and for anything at this point. Now, it's 20 years in, and so it's a lot easier to say that from this spot than it is from the starting point. But very early on, I think, one of the most important things for entrepreneurs is, and to a great degree you are an entrepreneur even if you're not completely on your own, is to protect your confidence. So what are the things that support your confidence, and how do you make sure those are a big part of your life? Working out's one of them. So making sure you don't skimp on time for those activities that help you stay confident about what you're doing. And then second is find a way to talk to yourself like your friend. When that mental stuff gets to that point, how can you speak to yourself the way you would talk to a close friend? And it's super hard to do. As somebody who's very tough on myself, it's hard to get there sometimes, but it's really been healing to even be able to approach things from that standpoint. And the last thing I'll give you is, one of the things I didn't like about Mass Mutual so much was the whole point system and tracking activity. But I'll say early on, there's something that's really important about defining what a successful day looks like for you. It can't be when somebody agrees to become a client. If you have a killer year and you sign 20 new clients in your first year, you got to have more than 20 good days in the next 365. So what are the activities that help you get forward to finding the person who's going to become the client? So did you reach out to somebody? Did you write a piece of content? Did you have a good conversation? Did you take care of yourself? Did you join the parents group? Your job is just to meet people at this point, and all the other stuff that comes out of the other side, you can't control an awful lot at this stage.
Jude, I can't foot stomp enough your point about if you wouldn't say it to a friend, don't say it to yourself. Jess, if there are things that you are screaming in your head and it's not something you would say to your daughter, it shouldn't be bouncing around up there.
No, I agree. It's
I'd also
figuring out
say
what those things are, and not just having the feelings, but just figuring out what's behind the feeling.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'd also say find a good little support circle, whether that be people you meet out on Twitter or people at the firm, wherever you are, find your group of people that you can lean on. That is one of the reasons that Taylor and I started the AGC, not to plug it here, but a lot of advisors feel alone. So you have these frustrations, you feel like this, and you think that you're only one, but here we are, two other advisors and a very qualified person in our profession to talk on this, that you aren't alone in the way that you felt. And here's some things that we've been able to do through our experiences to overcome that feeling of not wanting to sell, or whatever it is that you're feeling in the moment where you feel alone. So identify those people that you can lean on, that you can send a DM to or call, and they're going to get back with you quickly, just to talk through some things, because sounds like you are kind of on your own as you build this thing out, but you're not on your own. That's the thing, is find those people you can reach out to. And that's why I love, I initially thought this was going to be you and I talking. I'm glad that we have a group, but when I see people that put stuff out there like that, I immediately want to just have a conversation and just talk so that you're not alone. Sometimes you just need to get these things out of your head and just, you hear them and then you realize, okay, this is silly. This is not the way it is. So as I continue to ramble, find yourself a support circle of other advisors. There's plenty of advisors out there that don't view you as competition, that want to see you succeed and are going to be there for you. And then you'll have the opportunity to return the favor and be there for them, because eventually they're going to have their moment where they need you too.
We all need people who we trust can speak truth into our life, who will call us on our blind spots, who are going to support us and also challenge us, and have no vested interest other than calling out how they see it and doing that in a way that is compassionate, but also has candor, so that they can help you kind of dismantle some of this stuff that is getting in the way of ultimately helping you be your best self.
And my final thought, before I let you guys close it out, I said I was going to close it on change. My final thought is, if you don't want to feel as if you're an advisor who sells, then structure your business to where you don't have to sell. Again, going back to, you have your ideal client, you have a way to communicate who it is that you help, how, and you're telling a story. You're telling Jess's story, what makes you unique relative to every other financial advisor out there. And then remind yourself there's only so many people you can help. So you're not trying, well, maybe you are, but I don't think you're trying to build the biggest advisory firm known to man. You're trying to build a firm to provide for you and your family and help people. There's only so many people you can do that to. So you don't need everybody to be that ideal client for you. So tell that story, put it out there, and then build your business to where it's centered around advice, so you never feel like you're selling. And then I think that fear and that concern, especially time and confidence, goes away. But you're definitely not alone with that feeling. And I hate to feel like I'm selling too. And when people say it, financial advisors are salespeople, it makes me cringe a little bit. But then I step back and say, well, I am selling something. I'm selling myself and my advice and how I can help. And people can either like it or not. And I'm okay selling that. I don't want to sell a widget.
Jess, you aren't selling. You have something people want. Now more than ever, people want financial security. They're hungry for more financial knowledge and understanding. They want a more stable future. They want more money. You can help them get there. You have things that they need, but don't possess. You just got to show it to them, girl.
You gonna try to top that, Jude, or you want to call it a
I'm
day?
Yeah.
All right, we will end with that. Well, I want to, first off, thank Jess for being vulnerable on Twitter and putting that out there, and then vulnerable today, kind of opening yourself up to, sharing your feelings with us. And Joy and Jude, thank you for coming in and bringing your perspective and expertise and experience to kind of help Jess, but also everybody listening and watching. Because again, I had multiple people DM me saying that they felt the same way and they couldn't wait to hear this. So hopefully our message to Jess, replace your name with her name. It's all going to be the same for everybody out there. So thank you all for joining me. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. And we'll see you in another random episode that'll pop up as well.
Thank you
guys
all.
later.
Yeah. Sure, our pleasure.